All right, Evan Giddings in for Matt Steinmetz, Daryl the Guru Johnson. This is the crossover.
The fellas.
Willard and Dibs, Dan Dibley, F.P. Santangelo. What is going on, gentlemen?
Can I throw a curveball?
Throw it.
All right, Adrian Griffin got fired for the Milwaukee Bucks. They're 30-13.
Doc.
Okay, yeah. But my question is, where are we at in society, in sports, FP, to where you can be a coach killer and the record is there, it's stellar? I mean, come on, what are we doing?
Well, when guys sign such big contracts, the coaches are going to go before the players every single time, and the players have the power now. Because they got the 5, 10, 12 years.
But is that the right thing? Is that what it is now?
If Shohei doesn't like Doc, Dave Roberts in L.A., Roberts is in trouble.
Man.
At 30-13, though, you don't often see that.
But he likes him.
And, something must have been totally wrong in the locker room. Like, he might have pissed off the wrong guy. I don't know if it's Giannis or, if it's
Reports
Dame.
Dame didn't like his offense. It was kind of hard for him to get going. I just read that.
Right, okay. So 30-13, Dame's not happy, and it's over.
I do think it's funny that offense wasn't the issue.
Well, yeah, they weren't playing deep.
Right, but 30-13, you would figure you could maybe, work with the guy or try to help him through it, but
Jordan got coaches fired. I don't know why I'm acting brand new.
Was he doing food reviews, or did he have shirtless pictures on Instagram?
That I don't know.
I don't think he's quite
Sometimes
Dwight Howard yet.
those things matter.
Jordan had just Doug Collins and Phil Jackson, right?
Yeah.
There was no one else there in Chicago? Was that it during the Jordan run?
Yeah, he got Doug. He got Doug Rand.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and turned out it worked out okay.
And Magic got who did Matt? Shout out to the HBO series Winning Time.
Oh, Winning Time.
Is that Westhead?
Yeah, Westhead.
Oh, Westhead. Now, speaking of head coaches, I just got to say, you guys did a fantastic job yesterday with Steve Kerr. We played a couple of his comments and dug into kind of what's in front of the Warriors today. But I just want to give you guys your props. I thought you did a really good job.
Thank you, Evan. I do appreciate that. And, we did a full pre-show meeting with Matt Nahigi.
Not easy.
No, and FP and I had, and we both, I'm not going to say that we were, in tears in the pre-show, but we both were getting emotional over, imagine that. Not only do you lose a loved one, but you see it happen.
And that's what Evan
And so we're supposed to interview Steve, and hey, Steve, Kuminga and he and Wiggins, can they play together? And, what's wrong with Wiggins? And so we had to take a certain tack. And it was difficult.
I think more importantly is give props to Steve Kerr for coming on, because I think we had the mentality of this is the last thing he wants to do right now. And I think if you put yourself in his shoes, and there was some empathy there, he didn't want to come on yesterday. He was just being a professional, and he was awesome, and he is awesome. And I think that we're lucky as a fan base to have a leader like Steve Kerr, not. And a man like Steve Kerr. Not Coach Kerr, where everyone's complaining about Wiggins not playing enough in the rotations, but the man Steve Kerr and what he represents and being able to negotiate and navigate this difficult time for his team, to be a leader of men. There's so much more than wins and losses when it comes to a good coach, back to your point. So I don't know why dude got fired in Milwaukee. I don't even know his name because I don't watch the Milwaukee Bucks. But I'm saying that there's so much more. You have to be a leader of men. Some guys are meant to coach. Some guys are meant to stand up in front of men in the room.
Damn.
And Steve Kerr is meant to stand up in front of men in the room.
And never get small when he talks about gun control. He'll use the podium, the pregame presser. If something happens like it always does in our society, he'll speak the real and deal with the consequences. And now we're talking about death and brotherhood and bringing guys together. And I read the article, we had alluded to it, Marcus Thompson's article in The Athletic, and Curry and others were just talking about the grace and the elegance that Steve Kerr led with, and the things that you just gave him kudos for. So he's a special dude, man.
He is. We're lucky to have him.
Yeah, and look, and he's not the only individual that, of course, was graceful, honorable, worked with integrity throughout this entire process. But I think you're right. It's in a way, I almost it's a tragic situation. No one should have to go through it. But in a way, I wasn't surprised how he handled it, and reading about the intimate details of even the moment and shortly thereafter, it wasn't necessarily surprising just because of what we know about the man that Steve Kerr is, the unfortunate and unique circumstances of his upbringing, and how he's been, in a weird way, kind of almost prepared to handle a situation like that. So, look, I mean, credit to him, credit to the Warriors. And now you talk about being a professional. Well, that's what tonight is all about, right? You have a game tonight, you got to play. It's going to be with a heavy heart. but you got to be a professional, go out there and play a game against the Atlanta Hawks, in which I'm still sure they probably, don't want to necessarily be out there, but this is going to be their haven and their opportunity to put it behind them, and ideally they can come out and win one for Milojević.
Yes, and I mean, you want to obviously win one for him, but being off for 9 days, and you think about trying to get back to it, there'll be some rust, undoubtedly, and honestly, in the back of all their minds, we talked about this yesterday in terms of the season, just go ahead and forget the whole year. Yes, you're not going to give up every single game, but in terms of, are we going to grind over the deadline in 15 days? Are we going to sweat whether or not they make the playoffs? I think that this incident, this episode, puts a lot of things in perspective in terms of, what you're really looking at for this Warrior team that, in all honesty, it's not that they weren't going anywhere, but the trajectory was not for them to be a Western Conference finalist or a championship contender or a real threat. So I think you look at what you had over the past 9 days, and you look at what's coming up for the next 2 weeks till the deadline, and then 2 months after that, and you look at things in a little bit of a different light.
Yeah, I disagree, Dibs. You don't forget the year. I mean, you go out there with professional pride.
Of course.
You don't try. We get a truck driver to try. Nothing there's wrong with being a truck driver, but these are professional athletes. So you go out there with a mentality and an attitude that you're going to play as hard as you can and control the things that you can control on a nightly basis. Meaning, I'm gonna pay tribute by going out there,
no doubt,
and busting my ass every single night. And I'm going to go out there and control the things I control, and that's my attitude and my effort every single night. And if we're being honest, that part has been hit and miss. Mm-hmm. There's been some nights where dude, are you guys ready to play?
Yeah.
But I don't think we'll see that anymore. It doesn't mean they're going to get to the playoffs and they're going to go to the championship. But I think the way you pay tribute to somebody that you lost is A, you hit it head on like they're going to do tonight, and B, you give an effort every single night. This is a reality check for them that this can all be taken away in a second from any of us. Walking down, you listen to the doctors talking on the news about what happened to him. A guy's in great shape. Your heart can stop. So in that regard, these are 20-something and 30-something-year-old athletes in their prime. But the one thing you can control every night is hey, let's go. Let's go out there and play hard every night, win or lose, whatever. So I know what you meant, Dibs. I'm not trying to criticize you. You don't just give up on the season. But you pay tribute by your effort and your attitude on a nightly basis.
That's what Evan and I talked about.
And I think, you give the effort and you have the positive attitude, but I think in terms of how you look at the failure or you look at things that aren't going your way, I do think you look at things in a different way.
Yeah.
Maybe that's Draymond Green having perspective over a call that doesn't go his way, or Klay Thompson who is frustrated by shots that don't go in, or Steph Curry who's not getting the calls that he wants, or whatever it is, whatever you're going through individually. Hopefully we all can take this moment and this lesson and take a step back and realize, not in a life or death standpoint, but in terms of what we talked about yesterday with this Warrior team, you've had 4 titles, and Steve Kerr has led you to 4 titles, and things have been better for this franchise than almost any other franchise in all of sports. Mm-hmm. Mark and I had this conversation. Name another team in the last 10 years that has had 4 titles. And the answer is
can't do it.
None of them. You can't do it. Even if you go to the Giants, they had 3 and 5, and that was now 10 years ago when that ended. And the Patriots they've only had 3 since that time. So there's been no other franchise in all of sports who've had this level of success. So maybe we can think about that now instead of why isn't Moses Moody playing?
But in the same sense, I'm with you, Dibs, but I agree, FP, because I told the listeners and Evan, sports is a microcosm of life, and a life was lost here. And the best way you can honor Dejan is by going out there and playing for him. And we've seen Loyola Marymount. We've seen DeMar Hamlin, which wasn't a death, but we've seen teams come together and fight for their brother or sister. So, Dibs, I don't think anybody's coming to the office, not saying you're saying, oh, it's over, but I think they're going to honor this man, and the best way you can do that is attack your job. So in a crazy way, it's not bigger than life, but I'm watching the Warriors and just their pedigree and everything coming together that Coach Kerr said, to where I don't – and again, you weren't saying it's over or give up, but I think this is going to hopefully galvanize them to where now things can just manifest on their own, and they've been through this tragedy, and – we've seen families do it. We've seen jobs do it, come together after death. So that to me is got the rest of the kind of season like it's in his honor. Now, they may not win, but I think they're going to give it more effort than they had this not happened.
What I think it does go, and you're making a great point, is it flushes the whole Draymond drama, right?
I mean, like that's old, like
that's
way,
gone. That's
yesterday.
That's done because now we're all crying and hugging and leaning on each other for support and all the drama of the suspension, and that's all gone.
Man.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGNC FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Well, obviously we got a team that's fortunately carrying less emotional baggage in the San Francisco 49ers. News today from Kyle Shanahan that Deebo Samuel is not practicing. Status remains TBD. Does that change the way that you feel, FP, from the last couple of days that you expect him to play? Is this something that you just feel like is going to be water under the bridge, or do you think it's less than 50-50 at this point?
Yeah, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I expect him to give it a go.
Yeah.
He's got to give it a go.
I think so.
I mean, he got to go out there in warm-ups and see if he can catch a ball over his head. And then you got to absorb that first hit and see what happens after you shoot everything up and numb it up and do whatever you got to do. But you got to give it. It's the NFC Championship. You got to give it a go. And I always say, you guys probably talked about this, so forgive me if I'm repeating stuff you already said. But you ask the doctor, can I hurt it worse? Or is it a pain tolerance thing? Will this affect my career? And if that answer is no, and they tell you it's a pain tolerance thing only, then get out there and get after it, man.
I missed Dr. Pangea with you guys yesterday. What was his take on the whole injury? Like, does he think he's going to play Sunday?
Well, he doesn't know. It's basically what FP was saying about pain tolerance and flexibility. And we talked about if it's a labral issue, a torn labrum, which is what I personally have been through. And if you have a torn labrum and you raise your arm up to 180 degrees, then you can't have any function above that. So if he can't function above shoulder height, then to me, there's no sense in even putting him out there. Now, I don't know if that's what the injury is. They haven't said, but part of what you're saying, FP, I think is true. But if you can't go and you're active on game day and you go out there and you try to give it a go in warmups and you can't, well, then you're using a roster spot that maybe somebody else could have used.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing is, so we talked to Daryl Pollard earlier today, and he's won a couple Super Bowls with the Niners. He's been in these big games before, and his thing was he was just surprised at how Deebo dominant the game plan appeared to be on Saturday against the Packers. We know Deebo's a fantastic player, big game playmaker, and should be a focal point of your offense. But if he is maybe so, maybe not, it's got to be on Kyle Shanahan to figure out how to maneuver around that to the point where you're not giving the ball. I know it's a missed, kind of play call, but you're not giving the ball to Juwan Jennings on a jet sweep first play out of the second half. Those kind of things can't happen even if it's an accident. And so I'm very curious, well, like how dependent is this offense on Deebo Samuel? He's a great player. He does so many different things as a Swiss Army knife. But even if they don't have him, I still like the 49ers' chances because they have so many other weapons at their disposal.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pet peeve of mine, and it's a mindset, and these guys are all badasses. But like when Ayuk and Deebo are carrying three guys for an extra yard, just go down, man. Like, obviously, Dre Greenlaw, the last interception, we were all screaming go down. But there's so many times during the season where I know it's Kittle's makeup. It's Deebo's makeup. They're fighting for every yard. Ayuk, too. He's tough, right? He's a physical receiver. Jennings, too. And they're dragging three guys with him for one more yard, and all these other guys are hitting him on the way. And just, like the other night, or Saturday night, I was like, Deebo, just go down.
Well,
and then he got hit from the side, and I don't know if that's when it happened.
And I brought this up to Evan. Dibs, you tell me what you think, too. Do you think Kyle got too cute? Because we don't know when he technically got hurt, having him return kicks.
Well, that was the opening kick he returned.
I know,
right.
But he got up. But do we know if that's when it started? I'm just saying, I know it's football, it's a contact sport,
right.
But I'm wondering, was it worth it for him to get you the 15 to 20 yards? And we don't know technically when he got hit, but he got hit on. I'm just like sometimes you can do too much. Like, was it worth it?
You can, but you want to put your best foot forward. And my only issue with that was take the touchback because he only got it out to the 20.
Yeah.
He took it from the goal line or just inside. It's okay if you wave the hand or if you let it go and you get the ball at the 25. You don't have to return everything.
They do that.
Well, Deebo especially, because when Deebo gets his chance and the ball comes to him, he's trying to make a play.
Yeah, I mean, back to business decisions. It's like, is it really worth it for you to get the extra 2 or 3 yards on a kickoff when you're going to be a big part of why you might be able to break one on offense.
Yeah, but if I'm Deebo back there, I'm like, you didn't put me back here to do fair catches or touchbacks. Yeah. Why'd you put me out here? You put me out here to make a play, and I'm taking it out every chance I get. Or else don't put me out here. I'm not waving my hand in the air. I'm running.
Yeah, but any play someone – it's like, we're talking about, why did McCaffrey get more than 17 touches? Well, it's like, maybe Kyle wanted to conserve him a little bit. Maybe he didn't want to put him in as much harm's way as, especially after seeing Deebo Samuel go down. You're like, why? I can't just run this guy into the ground.
Well, in fairness, he got 24 touches. No, because he had 7 catches. Right. So
no, I agree.
And a lot of times I think many people, and I've seen it on Twitter, well, how can you only get 17 touches? Well, he had 17 carries, and he had 24 touches. So if you look at his touches throughout the course of the year, and I'm not trying to come down your road, but 24 touches is very much in the range of what he's done throughout the year. And this is a guy who was hurt. He had a calf issue. So, maybe you babied him a little bit more in Saturday's game, thinking that you want to keep him somewhat fresh for this game. Now, if he only has 24 touches and you lose this game, then maybe we have a conversation.
Well, but that's the thing, and Guru's kind of bringing it up. And I was discussing the fact, you look at touches, not carries so much in the scope of a game.
Yeah.
But if the 49ers had lost that game, we would be having the conversation. How come only 24 touches?
Perhaps, but I think you got to give credit to Green Bay because they took away a lot of the things that he likes to do. And if you saw his catches, he had 7 catches for 30 yards, I think, because Green Bay was hyper-focused on taking away that little swing route and the screen passes and also the passes over the middle. That's what they focused on. So even when you threw it to Christian McCaffrey, he didn't make a lot of big plays in the pass game. His biggest plays were in the run game.
Or you tried to get it to him in the pass game, and Brock Purdy was throwing at his foot.
Correct.
So, yes, that is on Green Bay. It's a great game plan, but also some of it was just lack of execution from the 49ers.
So what do you do this week and we'll get into the Dan Campbell comments.
Empty the tank.
Dan Campbell talked already about how their job number 1 is going to be to take away the run. So they're going to be selling out to take away Christian McCaffrey on the ground.
And why wouldn't you, especially after watching your young quarterback? Why wouldn't you?
So what do you do if you're the 49ers and you know that McCaffrey is going to be keyed on in the ground game?
Well, I know these are not the 90 Cowboys, but FP, great teams know what the other team's going to try to do, but we're just so badass. We know you're going to sell out to stop the run. We're still going to run. That's when you know you got a great offensive line and you're imposing your will. Like Evan talked about, the Niners need that Darth Vader mindset that they had against Philadelphia where they dressed in black and were in that mindset before kickoff. But just because the coach says that, you still got to do what you know what I mean? Impose your will on the Detroit Lions and run, even though they say they're trying to take it away.
So you know how many teams tried to stop Walter Payton? You know how many teams tried to stop, just name any, Tony Dorsett. You know how many teams tried to stop the greatest running backs of all time? So you can want to stop the run, but it's Christian McCaffrey. This is the best running back in the NFL. And if you do different sets and different plays and different schemes and different motions and different looks, you don't know where he's going. You don't know which way he's running. You don't know what play you're calling. So they can want to stop the run all they want, but being able to is a whole different story to stop Christian McCaffrey.
It's a little easier when you don't have Deebo Samuel, though, because of what he gives you, even when he doesn't have the ball, the pre-snap motion, and all the eye candy that you do with Deebo Samuel. And Evan mentioned it before, Jawan Jennings, he doesn't have that same skill set. So if you don't have Deebo, then you're not going to have the same motion activity. And if you do, if Jawan Jennings goes in orbit motion or if he goes in jet sweep motion pre-snap, the defense probably won't even shift because it's Jawan Jennings. So
the stress factor just goes down.
Exactly.
Is that the Three Stooges thing when they do the circle around the quarterback?
Exactly.
I like that one.
Yeah.
But to Dib's point about stopping the run, that's also what the Lions are good at. They are good at stopping the run. So if you're asking how the Niners can combat that, my answer would be what Kyle Shanahan didn't do at the end of the first half. Trust your quarterback.
What was that about?
He's there for a reason. He's threw 31 touchdowns this year. He's the most efficient passer in football. Might not be the best quarterback, however you slice it, but he's the most efficient passer this season. You got to let him sling the rock.
He was seeing what we were seeing, man. He got conservative because his quarterback couldn't get a grip on the football, and he was seeing everything we were all seeing. So he didn't want to take a chance at the end of the first half.
Yeah, I don't think that was it at all. I think he got conservative because he is conservative. Yeah, I think that He would much rather not score.
He hasn't been lately, though.
Give at the end of the second quarter. He always treats it that way. He's not going to give the other team a chance.
Dude, against Tampa last year, they were up 21-0. And they got the ball in their own end. I think it was Purdy's first start, and they went right down the field and made it 28-0 at halftime.
Up 21-0 in a regular season game, as opposed to up 7-6
so house money.
It's sloppy conditions. You're up 7-6, and you're getting the ball to start the third. You don't want to maybe put Brock in a spot where he throws a pick, and then Jordan Love now gets a score, and now you're down going into halftime.
My thing, too, is also...
That's playing not to lose, man.
Well, and I think we can get into that.
I could look forward to it. I think that Kyle Shanahan has a history, specifically in big games in the postseason, of turtling up a little bit, and... I just thought it was also a little bit telling that after the game, his response to the question about his mindset in that situation was not to your point about, okay, well, time situation, this is what we're thinking, blah, 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 as well, we won the game. Like, he tends to get defensive in those spots too. And I don't think it's because he thinks that he's wrong. It's because that just has been a shortcoming of his, and there's been successive moments in postseasons where we've seen that happen. It'd be different if it happened once. It'd be different if it happened only twice, but it's happened a few times to Kyle Shanahan, and unfortunately it's led to a few shortcomings of him, whether he's on the coaching staff as an OC or as a head coach for the 49ers.
You got the exact opposite on the other sidelines of Dan Campbell this week.
Exactly.
He's going to make some wild decisions.
4th and 12. Let's go for it.
Exactly. 30-yard line.
Exactly. And FP said yesterday, and I think he's right, in terms of the game may swing on a Dan Campbell crazy call. If it works, they might win. If it doesn't work, they might lose. Because he's going to try it. And, whether it's going for 2 against Dallas after the referees
I'll never forget
had
that.
a bad call, and now you're on the 7 or you're on the 8-yard line, and he's like, forget it, we're still going to go out and bite a kneecap, and the fake punt from the game the other day, and
the Bills.
He's going to try and do some things, I think, that are unconventional.
I know the game is played out on the gridiron, but how much of the Detroit, like you called it the other day, America's team thing, do you think is real, Dibs, in regard to them coming in here playing with house money?
It's real, but when the ball gets teed up at 3:30 on Sunday, does that matter? And I haven't seen the Vivid Seats report on what percentage
18%.
Is 18% Detroit?
Yeah.
And that's higher than it was for Green Bay.
18%.
Are you making that up?
No.
Okay.
Because
you answered so quickly.
No, it's 18%.
I thought that might have been made up.
Detroit's going crazy right now. Everybody in Michigan has their porch lights are Honolulu blue right now.
Oh.
I mean, people are
blue.
That's their colors, and everyone's dyeing their hair blue. I mean, they are America's team right now, based on them being on Hard Knocks, being the underdog. Everybody loves the underdog, except for Brock Purdy. Everybody loves the underdog. So yeah, man, momentum.
Honolulu blue.
Yeah, that's their color, Honolulu blue.
And their coach definitely helps the underdog mentality, because how do you not root for that guy who is, he's red-faced by the second quarter. Yeah, exactly. But he's doing it the right way. He's not one of these phony rah-rahs like Nick Sirianni or Sean McVay.
McVay got him a ball.
Yeah, but you guys, how long does the rah-rah thing last? Those things usually have a short shelf life.
Yeah, as long as you win.
Did you ever play for a rah-rah guy like that?
There's no rah-rah in baseball.
No, but there
not
are
Dusty.
guys.
Dusty wasn't rah-rah?
No, not really.
Cox?
No. There's just no rah-rah in baseball. There's too many games, man. You'd be burnt out by May if you're a rah-rah guy in baseball.
Sorta? No.
I guess Tommy could be considered a rah-rah guy, yeah. I didn't play for him, though. I had dinner with him a few times. You need like a plastic face mask because he eats hard, man. There's like a splash. There's like a radius of splash that goes all over. Yeah,
Who was your least favorite manager you played for?
Least favorite I played for?
Because I know you loved Felipe and you loved Dusty. You loved Art Howe.
Dude, I love everybody.
Love.
Yeah, I love everybody.
Well, look at it.
I mean,
a lot of good skippers.
Change that tune.
Davey Johnson probably wasn't the most honest dude I ever played.
Oh, you played for Davey?
Yeah, in L.A. as a Dodger.
Because I heard you come at Davey. I think it was maybe over the holidays when you were filling in, right when you started.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, because you did it in classic former athlete mode. You're like, there's a guy I actually have worked with who, I didn't really care for.
He was nice to be around as a.
You figured it out, or he said it?
He eventually said it.
He was nice to be around I was around him as a broadcaster for a number of years.
Yeah.
But like as a player, he would say, "Go talk to the GM. That he's the one not playing you." And then I go talk to the GM. He'd say, "You go talk to the manager. He's the one not playing you." So somebody wasn't shooting me straight. So I don't know. I'm not going to get into it, but I guess if you're asking him.
Okay. I wasn't.
We got a winner.
But the other 3 or 4 are like Hall of Famers, so.
Right.
We don't throw guys under the bus here from 2 to 6, but I look forward to what you
we'll
guys got coming up.
We actually do when Mark's not around.
That's right.
Mark doesn't throw guys under the bus. I'm happy to.
Willard and Dibs coming up next. FP in for Willard on 95.7 The Game.